It's time to stylize that article A side and footer on your LEGO website. So we've got our header. It's red. It spans the page at about 800 pixels and goes down 100 pixels. And now it's time to stylize this article A side and the footer. According to the instructions, we're going to need an article that has a background color of white, a width of 674 pixels, and it's going to be on the right of the A side. The A side is going to go on the left, and it's going to be yellow as a background color with a width of 126 pixels and a height of 300. So inside my LEGO styles, on my CSS file, I'm going to start with my article. We're going to give it a background color of white and a width of 674 pixels. And it's going to be on the right side, which means if I want it to sit to the right of something, I'm going to need to float it. So I'm going to float it to the right. You can see if you refresh it, it'll pop over to the right. You won't be able to see the width of it or the background color because that's white, but if you were to change this to instance green and you were to refresh up there, you would see that it spans across and it's sitting pretty far over. And we didn't give a width to the A side yet, so the question is, what's making it go all the way over to this side of the page? That float right. Remember, when you float, by default, it's going to float as far over as it can till it reaches the edge of your screen. So if I were to take my screen right here in Dreamweaver and I drag it inward, you would see that the article would move and shift over based on the width of my screen. So it's important to note that the float makes it float as far over as it possibly can. And we're going to fix that so they sit together and sit underneath this header. In your A side, you're going to go ahead and give it a background color of yellow, a width of 126 pixels. And why this weird number of 126? Let's think about it. Article is sitting to the right of it at 674. A side has a width of 126. Shockingly, if you add those together, they equal 800, which is the width of the header. So that way everything's going to sit underneath it and look uniform. Then we're going to go ahead and give it a height of 300 pixels. And it's going to sit to the left of the article by default. But just in case, and you never know what's going to happen on any device, on any browser, I'm going to make sure that it always sits to the left, and I'm going to float it to the left. When you do that, you'll see that your A side will get a width and a height, and then this word footer gets to pop up in between the A side and the article. And that's going to become an issue in the long run, so we're going to need to fix that. But we'll come back to it in just a moment. For now, we're going to stylize this footer. The footer is going to have a background color of blue. Note we're using the colors of LEGO. All right, and we're going to give it a width. Now, the assignment asked you to figure out what that width is. If I want the footer to sit at the bottom and I want it to be uniform with the entire page, the question is, how wide should it be? Well, how wide's the header? The header is 800 pixels wide, which means my footer is going to be 800 pixels wide, so that way it can sit and be uniform below it. You'll see that the second you do that, the blue is there, the word footer is there, but you don't see the whole thing because it's actually being allowed to float up behind this. The reason the word footer is sitting over to the right a little bit of the A side, but the blue is actually floating behind it, is because the word content can't float behind it unless it has a specific CSS style feature, which it doesn't at this point. So the blue is floating behind this A side in this article, but the word footer we can still see. Next, we're going to go ahead and give it a height of 25 pixels. And we're going to do a text alignment. So if you actually go to text dash, you'll see that in this drop-down menu for Dreamweaver, you've got lots of options for text dash. One of them is align. And I'm going to align it to the right. When you do that, your footer should pop over to the right, and now you've got some weird stuff going on. But we're going to fix it. So at this point, you've got header, A side, article, and footer. It's looking okay, but what we want is we want this article to push over, sit underneath the header, and we want the footer all the way down here at the bottom of the page. So right now, your article and your A side are allowed to float away from each other and create this gap. We need to remove it, and that's what we're going to do next. Don't forget to go File, Save All to save those files.